At a time when our country, from the inside and the outside, is being infiltrated by people and by movements that seek to destroy America, mass migration is catastrophically dangerous. Last week, in a coordinated effort, and it was a coordinated effort, they admit it, in a coordinated effort to cause the most economic impact possible on the United States, at least until our leaders abandon Israel, that's their demand, we had pro-terrorist mobs, which is what they are. These are not protesters. These are pro-terrorist mobs, shut down traffic on an interstate highway in Oregon. They blocked passengers from getting to the airport in Chicago and Seattle. They closed down the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. At this very moment, right now, as I speak on the Senate floor, some of our most prestigious universities, their campuses are closed because they've been taken over by pro-terrorist mobs, chanting things like harassing Jewish students to go back to Poland, they say. Others are chanting, "Go Hamas, we love you. We support your rockets too." Others, I've heard these chants. Here goes, "We say justice, you say how. Burn Tel Aviv to the ground." The situation has gotten so intolerable that just 2 days ago, a rabbi advised Jewish students to leave Columbia University and go home for their safety. This morning, I got a text message from a friend, a Jewish friend, and I read something I never thought I would ever have to read. Here's what he wrote me. Quote, "I have to tell you, for the first time in my life, I see Jewish people scared for their safety and considering exit strategies from the USA, including buying homes in foreign countries and looking to liquidate USA assets." I never thought I would ever read that from anybody in America. These mobs, by the way, don't just want to destroy Israel. They want to destroy America. Some of these mobs are out there chanting "Death to America" in the streets of American cities. And as one of the mob leaders at one of these riots, this is what he said to a microphone, quote, "It's not just Genocide Joe that has to go. It is the entire system that has to go. Any system that would allow such atrocities and devilry to happen and would support it. Such a system does not deserve to exist on God's earth." You know what system he's talking about? This system, our system of government. That's what he was talking about. Where did all this come from? How did all of this happen from one day to the next? How can things that we once only saw happening in the streets of Tehran, manufactured by the evil regime, those things are now being chanted in our streets, in our country? Where did this come from? The clues are everywhere. Hamas and Hezbollah have been very, very public about how these violent, anti-Israel, anti-Semitic mobs are part of their strategy to intimidate American leaders to support policies that will help destroy Israel. Hamas, Hezbollah, other terror groups, they have repeatedly called on their supporters around the world to protest in cities everywhere. And they boast about how their friends, what they call their friends on the global left, were actually now responding to their calls. By the way, they openly brag. This is all coming from interviews that they do on television programs that can be monitored. They openly brag about, this is a quote, because of the indoctrination, because of the introduction of colonialism, racism, and slavery studies into history curricula, end quote, they go on to say, many young Americans have been, my term I read today in the Wall Street Journal, have been groomed to support armed resistance, to support intifada in the United States. By the way, it's not just the mobs that we're seeing. Beyond that, as the director of the FBI has acknowledged, ISIS generates income, they generate revenue by running a human smuggling ring that brings migrants to the United States. And so just the bare minimum common sense would lead you to conclude that if ISIS has a business to smuggle migrants into the U.S., why wouldn't they use that to smuggle a few terrorists here to do in America what they did in Moscow a few weeks ago? So we have Hamas, and we have Hezbollah, We have all these terror groups encouraging and supporting violent mobs calling for intifada inside America. We already have people here on student visas calling for death to America. And ISIS controls a migrant smuggling ring that they can use to bring people into the United States to conduct attacks. But if I want to help Israel, if I want to help Taiwan, if I want to help Ukraine, if I want to ban TikTok, I have to agree, I have to vote to do nothing to stop thousands of people a day that we know literally nothing about, just to allow them to come across our border and be released into our country.